Okay. Oh, it works. Great. Okay, I will call to order the April 18th Ross ADR meeting. My name is Mark Kruchnet, ADR member. I'll let the other ADR members quickly introduce themselves.
I'm Steven Sutro. And Mark Fritz.
And
Hi, I'm Laura Dewar.
thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Laura.
But
Oh,
now-
but now,
I wonder if that's coming through. Let's see. Now it seems to be gone. Okay. Great. The first thing we'll do is open time for public comments. If anybody wants to speak about anything for up to 3 minutes that is not on tonight's agenda, now is your time. Okay. The first item is the approval of the minutes from March 21st. I read those minutes and they seemed accurate to me. Did anyone else read them and have any comments?
I read them, they seemed fine.
Great, so we'll approve those. And the first project tonight, just for the members of the audience here and on Zoom that haven't been here before, the way this works procedurally is the town introduces a project briefly, then the owners and/or their design team gives us a presentation in which the ADR members may ask questions. After that, we open it up to the public for any comments. And after that, we close the comments from the public, and the ADR then formulates our recommendation to the town council. And the first project tonight is 101 Upper Road.
Good evening, Chair Krishna and ADR members. The applicant today at 101 Upper Road is requesting approval for design review, hillside lot permit, and a variance to construct new landscape structures. The applicant have previously Okay. Let me start over. Can I?
Yeah. If you're on Zoom, can you please mute yourself? I'll try to do that here too.
Now we seem not to have that echo.
Testing, testing.
Hello?
Great.
Yep. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Good? Okay. So the applicant is requesting approval for design review, hillside lot permit, and a variance to construct new landscape structures. The applicant has previously received approval for an ADU, including the roof overhangs of the ADU. The ADU is not part of this project, as it has been approved ministerially. The improvements subject to review tonight include the patios, the swimming pool, retaining wall, fencing, outdoor shower, outdoor kitchen, fire pit, fountain, mechanical equipment, and the railings. The ADR reviewed the project at the March ADR meeting. There were some comments that were made. Some of the comments included removing the staircase, the stair access to the ADU living roof, remove the guardrail from the rooftop, reducing the pool length from 47 feet to 40 feet, relocate the outdoor kitchen and outdoor shower, as well as to relocate the wire fence away from the edge of the driveway. Another comment was to pull the project closer towards the main house. The project applicant has met with neighbors on site and has made some changes to accommodate their concerns. The applicant will present the changes made in his presentation. Staff received 7 emails in support of the project from neighbors and 1 email from a neighbor that still has major concerns about the project. Staff requests that the ADR group discuss the merits of the project and provide a formal recommendation to Town Council. Thank you.
Wait, would the applicant like to come and make their presentation?
Hi, this is Brad. I'm on Zoom.
Hi, Brad.
And I have a few, I'm good. How's everybody? I just have a few things to say, and Alex did a good job at summarizing many of the changes that we've made. And we listened to ADR closely. We did meet with the neighbors and went over the changes. And, you know, we did 14 different changes that we feel have made significant improvements to the project for the neighbors and still work for the client and for the project in general. I'm just going to go through these really quick, and I'm just going to go one by one here. And if we could pull back up the landscape plan, that would be great. And I'll quickly go through these. One was we removed the stair access to the ADU roof and removed the railing on the top of the roof, which significantly reduced the bulk mass when viewed from the road. We also moved the ADU away from the road, so we moved it 2 feet closer to the house, which resulted in a shorter pool, but still acceptable. But now our closest point to the property line of the corner of the ADU is 17 feet. And as everyone knows, an ADU can be within 4 feet of the property line. So we are significantly away from the property line, and from the roadway, that corner of the ADU is 24 feet. Also reducing the mass in that area, we removed the outdoor shower that was the closest point to the road, and we removed the mass of the barbecue and the built-in bench on that side. We also added a lower wall per the request of the adjacent neighbors and a screen hedge along that patio space. So we went from a wall that was about 5 to 6 feet tall to 2 walls that are 3 feet max each. One significant change that we also did was to push the fence up away from the driveway and make sure that we did the most transparent.
No, you're not supposed to use that for water. What? That's wisdom.
We removed the fence. We moved the fence away from the roadway significantly and made sure that that fence is as transparent as possible. And then we increased planting along the road that zigzags kind of in front and behind the fence to further help soften that fence and really keep the feeling of the natural hillside. That was a huge goal of our changes, was really to kind of maintain the open hillside feeling of the property while reducing all visual impacts from the roadway. I want to just be clear that the impacts of this project are from a driveway, and they're not from any adjacent residences. There's no home that can see this project in any way. So all of these impacts are to reduce the driveway impact. Let's see here. We listened to ADR group comments, and we've changed our material boards to be more earth tone and natural. From any place that you can see this from off-site driveway, all the walls will be earth tone. The tile will be earth tone for the infinity wall, and we plan to use native rock material for the rock wall planters that will help soften the patio wall. There was a comment about the fountain, that it was a wall fountain prior. We moved that to the opposite end of the patio and just did a much smaller, not as impactful fountain. Let's see here. I think that's most of it. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the architect is on Zoom and in attendance tonight and can also talk about anything regarding the ADU and the earth tone colors. But yeah, I'm here and happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have a couple questions, Brad. Based on a letter we got, I just wanted some clarification. In looking at this drawing, there was something about a 10 to 15 foot deck space under an overhang that they thought wasn't properly marked. Is it this front part?
Well, there's the place where the patio is, where the large dining table is.
Yep.
There's an overhang that's connected to the ADU right there. That must be what's being
Okay,
referred
so that's
to.
something else that needs to be. Oh, the overhang was approved, but the deck was not. Okay.
I think there was some confusion on this bird's eye view site plan or plan that doesn't necessarily show the deck under the overhang, right? Because it's a bird's eye view.
Okay,
I think that's where the.
great.
Yeah, there's an overhang with a patio below. And this diagram shows,
Overhang's already approved as part of the ADU. It's just the deck below it. Right, okay. And then the other thing they mentioned was a pool equipment room?
that's been incorporated, that was incorporated in the ADU previously, but it's in the corner of the ADU. That should be on the ADU. We revised the ADU plans because we had to move around some pieces of it to get the shower to work and so we had to get the barbecue. There's where the outdoor kitchen has been relocated to, and then there's where the pool equipment vault.
Got it, and that's part of the approved ADU? Or is that something we're looking at here? Is that a separate structure in a setback that we're looking at, or is that part of the approved ADU?
That's always been, well, it's part of the ADU. That's within the ADU structure.
I was under the understanding that that this pool equipment vault is not part of the ADU approval. And that
Well, it's part of the ADU building.
Wait, but it's not approved, it's as far as we're concerned, because the ADU is just approved by right.
Yeah, okay.
Great.
Yeah, sure.
But that particular part of a structure is something that they're requesting a variance for, a structure being built in the setback that's going to be attached to the ADU and adjacent to the pool deck, if it's built. Okay.
Well, it's
I'm not sure
it's incorporated in the ADU roof and in the structure itself. So it's not a separate unit, but yeah, I guess it wasn't approved before, but it will feel like it's integrated into the ADU or that building structure.
I think also this ADU was approved at around little over 500 square feet. So should they need to
Expand the
amend-
ADU.
Right, they have some
They can get up to
wiggle room.
850
Yeah,
feet. So it's a
exactly.
relatively small ADU that could go up to 850 feet.
Yes.
Right now, the ADU is 607 square feet with the pool equipment.
With the pool equipment, I think they approved.
But,
the- sorry.
sorry, excuse us. Stephen was saying that he thinks that an ADU is not allowed to have pool equipment as part of it, but it really wouldn't matter what they put in there, right? I mean, if you want to use your 850 square feet to put in,
We have seen ADUs that are near pools to include a pool equipment room.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Let's see, those were those clarifications. And then the area that juts out from the ADU, the part of the deck that's between the ADU and the road, how deep is that?
That patio is 7 feet in width.
And at its closest point to the road, how close does that get?
21 feet.
Okay, so it's 21 feet. And you said it was two different retaining walls of 3 feet each now going up to the pool deck?
Yeah, before it was one large 6-foot wall with a barbecue on top of it. So it was starting to feel like that was almost like a 10-foot tall wall. So we took the outdoor kitchen barbecue and pushed it over kind of to the nook of the ADU, and then added a second terrace to break up the mass of that wall. And the lowest terrace wall would be built out of native rock. And then there's a hedge there of icy blue podocarpus that gets 6 to 8 to 10 feet tall, dense shrub that will completely screen that patio from view from the road. And then below, between the road and that hedge planter, I have myrica and Rhamnus californica, and I have a lot of screen planting in the existing oaks. I don't think you're going to see this wall at all.
And then from the deck going up, is there another fence going up or anything? Or is it just sort of, because it's only 3 feet and 3 feet, you don't need a fence?
No, it's going to have a safety rail, but it'll be like a cable rail, some very transparent rail.
And approximately how tall is that?
It has to be 42 inches by code.
Okay. That was all my questions. Stephen, Laura, Mark, does anyone else have any questions? Okay. I will open it up to the public then. Is there?
Sorry, just a quick question. So did the swimming pool move closer to the house at all, or just shifted in smaller away from the property line?
It just shifted to be smaller. I'm really tight between the house and the property line due to there's some existing trees there. And as I moved it closer to the house, the trough wall, the corner of the trough wall got taller and taller. And I was trying to keep that trough wall to be around 4 feet and just try to minimize the mass of the infinity edge on that corner. So, I mean, we can maybe move it out a foot, maybe 2, but that wall, the lowest wall will then get to be, rather than 4 feet tall, it'll get to be 5 feet plus or so. So it's a balancing act. This hillside is not terribly steep, but we're trying to fit a pool that's only 11 feet in width. So it's a very narrow pool as it is. So, but every time I move it one way or another, either the rear wall gets taller or the front wall gets taller. So I thought it was pretty perfectly sited, to be honest. And when I moved this pool around so many different times and angles, and this is where we landed.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, could you put up the overlay where they just show the pool with the setbacks, or the whole plan with the setbacks overlaid on it?
Is this one?
Yeah. So the bulk of the pool is within the setback area. The main area that's not, is this patio space and the ADU above, and then this little area in front. But our setbacks are pretty extreme. They're 70 feet from the rear and 45 feet from the front, which is, I don't know of any other areas where there's setbacks of that size.
Brad, I have a question about the part of the deck that's between the ADU and the driveway. It just seems sort of unnecessary because it's not going to be used for entertainment. It's not the dining area. It's not where the lounge chairs are. It's not how you access the pool. It's not how you access the ADU. And it's...
Can we go to the architecture plans, because this will help describe this a little bit more about how the owner envisions this being used? And it's that there's a pass-through counter over on that side. Yeah, right here. And so there's a window that opens up to the kitchen, and it's anticipated that that's where the kids would eat. The kids would have snacks on that counter space right there.
But if I'm reading those architectural plans, that's a sink against that wall. So there's no pass-through, there's no door there.
No, not a door, but the window's open, and you could hand you could hand drinks and things like that to a counter with stools.
Okay, but there's no access, that's not how the ADU is accessed.
No, that's not a door.
Okay,
There, that's the door. Yeah.
okay, those were my questions. I'll open it up to anyone not on the ADR in person or on Zoom who would like to ask any questions and or make comments. Oh, if you're going to speak, you need to identify.
Hello, Astrid Deeth. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I made comments at the prior meeting, and we submitted, I guess, a plan or some comments basically regarding the revised plan. So in general, you know, we acknowledge that there have been several changes and they're all in the right direction. We did meet with the owners and their architects about the revised plans, and we had asked them to consider two other changes, one of which was the deck that's off the pass-through window with the seating. That's very close to the road. And even if it's screened by bushes or whatever, it just seems like an unnecessary intrusion into, particularly because it's all in the, obviously in the setbacks. So that area, we said, could that be taken away or shifted elsewhere? Just in general for us, the project just seems so lopsided towards the road or the driveway and so far away from the house. It just seems to violate all the guidelines that Ross has. But so in general, just the whole feel of the project is reverse to what it should be in our view. But in any way, that particular piece seems extremely close to the road still, and you know, could be moved elsewhere. And the other question we asked was whether they could shift the ADU part with the big dining table and deck further back into the hillside, which would then pull it away. It wouldn't, you'd lose the mass, you wouldn't see the mass as much, and it would pull it away from the driveway. They said they would consider it, and then they sent us an email just saying that they did not, weren't inclined to make the changes. So basically, our feeling is we sent in a picture which showed an overlay of the old plan and new plan. You can see that the changes are not terribly significant from the point of view of the overall location and siting. You know, moving 2 feet is really not material. And what's made this 5 feet in total, because 3 feet was a little part that stuck out, which was the outdoor shower. So that is good that that's been moved, obviously. And taking the barbecue away and the solid wall there was significant. But our feeling still is that piece of the deck with the counter and that side of things is still very, very close to the road. And as I said, so those are our concerns and inputs.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to make any comments?
Looks like we have one more person, yes, on Zoom. Great. Go ahead, Bo.
Yeah, hi, I'm Bo Stellan. I'm Astrid's husband. And I just wanted to correct something Brad said. The closest point is actually 16 feet, not 21 feet. The deck is actually within 16 feet of the road. And again, it's about 20, 25 feet up from the road. So it's quite a sight looking up at it from the road. The other thing is Brad made an interesting point that, you know, he doesn't want to change the wall of the pool closer to the house. From our point of view, that would be desirable. As Astrid said, the mass is close to the road, so anything you can do to move it closer to the house, even if it increases the size of the wall there from 4 to 8 to 10 feet, we wouldn't feel it as much coming into the driveway as we would from that corner. So our main concern again is that corner. And just to mention some statistics, which I did last time as well, you know, that's 15 feet in a 45-foot setback. That's a 65% encroachment. You know, the ADU, if you take the ADU out, you know, it's 65% of this project is in the setback. And on the other side, on the back side, they're 30 feet from a property line in a 75-foot setback. That again, that's 60% encroachment. So this is massive and significant. And if anything they can do to move it closer to the house, we would really appreciate. And we're not against this project. We think it could be a lovely project. We just want to reduce the mass and scale closest to the road. Thank you very much, and thanks for your dedication to our community.
Thank you. I actually have a question for Brad related to some of those comments. Could you pull up the overall landscaping plan again, the green one? The bird's eye view that we had up there before? Yeah, that one, perfect. Brad, when you were talking about how if it was moved closer to the house, it would make one or more of the walls taller, which walls were you talking about here?
That one, yeah, right there. Yeah, that wall will get taller. And I started pinching in on those, there's an oak tree there, and then there's a group of trees by the stairs that go down. There's that tree, and then there's the trees right there, yeah.
So they're the trees, and then is the reason that you don't want the walls to be taller there because the owners of the house don't want to be looking at a taller wall there? Is it?
No, I was just trying to avoid taller walls in general. That was not, no, the owners from the house aren't going to be able to see these walls. There's so much vegetation between the two houses that, no, it doesn't have anything to do with visual appearance from the owners.
Okay.
And I just, one thing I want to clarify can we go over to the patio by the, where the pasture is? The corner from the patio to the road, right? From the patio, that's the planter there. From that point to the road is 21 feet to the edge of the road.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So now I'll bring it back to the ADR for our recommendations to the town council. Who would like to go first? Okay. Laura, would you like to go first? Or would you like me to go first?
I would rather not, if that's all right.
I'll go first. In looking over my comments from last time and the other ADR members, the main thing that people spoke about was the height of the project, and I think it is shorter now. The other main thing, and probably the overall main issue, was how much of it was in the setbacks. And there's still, obviously, a lot of the project is in the setbacks. It still seems to me that, like, the deck in front of the ADU doesn't really need to be there, and I would remove that because it just makes it much farther from the shared property and more inside the setbacks. And it does seem logical that, well, to pull it more towards the house, even if the walls are going to be taller there, if you're building things in the setbacks, or you could scoot everything over and have taller walls over there. I'm personally not that concerned about an oak tree. The arborist might be, or the oak tree might be, but to me, I think that if the people don't want as much mass in their setback, I understand that. You know, I think it's great the ADU's there. The only thing that gives me pause on this is I realize I'm saying that I think that deck in front of the ADU should be removed because it's too far in the setback, but theoretically, I think the owners could probably come back and say, well, we want to change the location of the ADU and move the whole building forward 6 feet, in which case there'd be much more mass in that setback, which I think would be worse for the neighbors. So I'd rather see the deck in front of the ADU rather than the ADU move forward, if those were the two options. But as an ADR member, just not commenting on the ADU itself, I'd rather have the deck not be there in what we're approving, just because it is in the setback and the neighbors would prefer it not to be in the setback. So those are my comments. And I think it's great what they are doing with all the planting. I think a lot of it will disappear. I think what they're doing with the colors of the materials are all great. And I'm fine with an actual pool being there. It's just, you know, figuring out the exact best location for that. Laura or Steve, who would like to go next?
I'm happy to go. I think the changes are admirable. I think that it's moving in the right direction. I think if we step back, or if I zoom out a few thousand feet, I think why are variances acceptable for gathering spaces in the setbacks? You know, under what circumstances is that justifiable or a good thing to recommend? And I think that if something is not visible from public spaces or from neighboring properties generally, and everyone is generally satisfied with the project, particularly those immediately adjacent, and also the project has difficulty kind of enjoying the same kind of things that most people of that kind of lot would like to do, then that's is justifiable. I can make kind of variance findings in my mind for that. But so the thing, I agree with you about the terrace off of the pass through the hot dog window at the kitchen. I think that that's a little bit of kind of intense activity that's really close to the property line, and if this moves forward, I would suggest that that be removed. I'd also just love to see the one neighbor that is most affected happy with this, because in that circumstance or with that endorsement, I could wholeheartedly I could wholeheartedly support this project as designed, frankly, because it's not visible from anywhere else materially, and here's the one person that is affected, so I wish they could be satisfied. So I feel a little bit at odds about it because of that. If it weren't for that, I'd say, well, there's a hardship. This is a funky lot with huge setbacks. It's hard to kind of get nice stuff on it reasonably. These are reasonable things that are being requested, and I'd be totally happy with it. So I wish that we had the neighbors' support. If we bring back the deck, maybe that would lend support from the neighbor. I don't know. It's one of the couple things that they asked for. But so that's the recommendation that I would have, is to try to work with the neighbor with any concession you could make around that or any other request they have, and then with their endorsement, go to council and get this approved. Thanks, Stephen. Laura?
Sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate all the changes that were made based on the comments from the last meeting. I think there's been a great deal of improvement, and the material palette looks nice, more natural. I do think that well, on one hand, it is just a driveway. It's not a public roadway. It's a private driveway, but it doesn't, I have to agree. I think maybe if that patio space in front of the ADU, where the window with the counter, it just feels like maybe if that patio space was pushed in or eliminated, it might be more easy to approve the variance for this. And I think because the pool equipment is so tucked in, that even though it's in the setback, I wouldn't have any issues with that. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Laura. Mark?
Yeah, I think I can fall in line with my other members here. I think that this is my first viewing of the project, and when I started to look at that piece of terrace off the kitchen there, I think that pinch is probably unnecessary. I couldn't find findings for that to be in the setback as far as a necessity. I understand the pool location is kind of tricky with regards to the site and the slope. I don't think moving it 2 feet closer to the house is going to substantially change the overall impression, but I would do that as much as you can without impacting the existing tree line. That would probably be my recommendation. I don't think you're going to end up substantially relieving that corner unless the ADU moves. And I'll back up a step. One of the reasons, the other reason to remove that terrace is you do have the two walls, but you do have a rail on top of that. So we're starting to stack this stuff up where, whether it's 21 feet or thereabout from that roadway, it starts to loom. So that does seem like a concession. It's a variance that doesn't, I couldn't find findings for that particular portion within the setback. I would also recommend that, that as much as possible to tighten up that back patio that's also in the setback, where the fireplace is, et cetera. There's a decent amount of space there, so kind of tucking this thing back into the hill, the pool itself should reduce the overall height of the garden walls and the imposition in both the front and the rear setback. So those would be my initial comments. I think the improvements that I could see, were admirable, as Stephen said, and Mark and Laura have said. But that front piece that pinches into the setback, the furthest, should be just removed. So I think that's all I really have to say.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. And the next agenda item is 15 Macon Grade.
Chair Kushner and ADR members. The applicant at 15 Macon Grade.
I'm sorry, can I just,
yeah.
can we just say just ADR members? I don't think we need to single out Chair Kruchnick going forward. It seems weird always to me. But thank you, but I think we're just good with just ADR members. Thanks.
ADR members. The applicant at 15 Macon Grade is requesting approval for design review, a hillside lot permit, and a nonconformity permit. The project proposes to remodel the upper level of the existing guest house and an addition of 405 square feet of floor area at the lower level by converting the basement into a gym and bathroom. A portion of the existing guest house encroaches into the side yard setback, therefore the nonconformity permit is required. The project also proposes to do landscape improvements, including installing new planting, upgrading the pathway, front bricks to a decomposed granite path, along with natural stone stairs connecting to the new pool deck. The project also proposes a new rectangular shaped pool to replace the existing oval pool. The existing pool cabana will remain with only a storage cabinet and a bench added beneath. An outdoor kitchen is also being proposed. Staff requests that the ADR group discuss the merits of the project and provide a formal recommendation to Town Council.
Thank you. Would the owners like to make their presentation or their design team? Please.
Thank you, staff members, for hearing the project today. We've had a wonderful time working on this project, designing this project. We have the homeowner here, Dave Ravinis. My name is Dave Sweats of Sweatshop Architecture and Design. This is a really fantastic piece of property. I'm not sure if any of the staff members had an opportunity to visit the site today. An old Gardner Daily Japanese-inspired estate home, quite secluded. We are proposing, as staff members said, to reinvigorate the landscaping, add floor area to the guest house on the lower level there, which is an unimproved crawl space. And we seek to just improve the usage of the property as much as we can. So I'm not sure if any of the team members have joined us today, probably all home enjoying a cocktail, watching Ted Lasso. But the existing site plan, which is on the screen now, shows in pink the areas that are being addressed. So those are there's an interior courtyard for the main residence there that the cursor is hovering over that's being pulled up for new flagstone pavers, the front entry stairs getting reconstructed, and then up on where the cursor is now, there's an oval-shaped pool that's getting replaced with a rectangular 40 by 19 foot pool cover, and a new pool deck. There is a cabana up on that pool area, which is to remain existing, untouched. And then toward the right-hand side there is the guest home. And that guest house, as staff members said, is being remodeled on the interior upstairs level. And there's an unimproved, slightly creepy crawl space on the lower level that we're seeking to make better usage of. And so what's photographed here is various aspects of the guest home. The upstairs is quite obvious. The bottom left is our creepy crawl space. So again, we're seeking to excavate, improve with a new foundation, which will substantially reinforce the structure on the hillside, as well as add usable square footage to an area that's otherwise difficult to utilize right now. On top of the guest home, you can keep scrolling, Rebecca. These are the two main patio areas. So the top two images are the pool deck. You can see the cabana, which is to remain. All the brick is being pulled up. Oval-shaped pool, which is wonderful in its mid-centuryness, needs a makeover. So that's getting a rectangular pool, 40 by 19. And then the lower two images are the courtyard of the main home. You can see on the bottom right image that the courtyard is slightly terraced up a few steps, creates drainage issues, usage issues, and so that is the portion of space that's being minorly excavated to be flush with the lower terrace of the courtyard there. Other than that, landscape improvements, planting, irrigation. This is the guest home material palette. So again, you could see the lower level there, which is being glazed. The other three walls are bunkered into the hillside. The area of improvement is completely non-visible from any public right-of-way, neighboring property, even from the subject property itself. Material usage is fire-resistant materials, so we're proposing to accent the Gardner Daily Japanese home with Shoshugiban exterior siding, a new deck, the existing boards are being rotted out, and a code-compliant railing, of which the house currently does not have. And as we move down, you'll see the material palette for the landscape areas, soft natural materials, ground cover is gravel, decomposed granite, and natural stone as opposed to the manufactured brick, which is currently in place. And I am available for any more poignant or technical questions, but just wanted to give a brief overview of the scope of the project for you.
Thank you. Could you stay there for 1 second, just in case anyone does have questions? Thanks. Do any ADR members have questions?
I have one, if I could. Did you think about, just because you're going to end up pouring a new foundation of this, did you think about just moving it out of the setback at the same time? Moving the building, the 10 feet to the east, whatever it might be?
It's a bit of horse trading. The subject property in its current location has fantastic usage right now. We would hate to lose that asset. If we were to seek to move it to another area of the property, there's limited locations in which that could be sited well.
I'm sorry, I was just literally thinking 10 feet to the east to move it out of the setback. That's all I was. If you didn't look at that, that's just, you could say, no, I didn't look at that.
We didn't necessarily look at that, and beyond just cost limitations, there may be other variables that we haven't discovered yet.
That's fair.
But being that the structure is already sited in that location and partially excavated, it seemed common sense to not only reinforce the existing structure, which desperately needs to be done, but then further just to take advantage of that space if we're going to make that seismic effort to improve the structure.
There you go. Fair enough. Appreciate the answer.
Sure.
Thank you.
Are there any other ADR questions?
I just have a quick question about the pool cabana. Just curious why you guys decided to keep that, and it looks like in one of the renderings that maybe it's getting painted from white to like a dark gray or something. Is that right?
That structure is to remain in place. It does need paint. There's really beautiful mid-century columns of kind of a non-manufactured steel, or sort of East Vanderoe plus shaped columns. If we were to touch that structure, we would lose the simplicity of its minimalism because of the way that it's constructed together. So we would love to maintain that structure. We think it adds property value, usage, and in and of itself, it speaks to a time period that is difficult to capture nowadays. So if we can maintain that structure, that's what we propose to do. It's sited perfectly for exposure and for enjoyment and usage of the pool area. So we did not look at amending that structure, taking it down, or moving it for those two reasons. One, that it's beautiful, and two, that it's in the right place.
Okay. And then those brick, like in the photo on the top left side, the brick, like those low walls, those are changing to stone or something, but the top portion would remain? Is that?
Good question. So those brick walls are actually proposed to remain. That's the lone brick element that will remain.
Okay.
A nuance of the landscape plan is that cabinetry is being placed in front of that, storage cabinetry.
Uh-huh.
Not an outdoor kitchen, no appliances, no plumbing needed, but storage structure for pool usage. But the brick that you see on the ground is what we're proposing to remove and pull up and replace in natural stone.
Okay, thank you.
Any more ADR questions? Okay, I'll open it up to the public. If there's anybody on Zoom or in the audience who would like to ask questions and or make a comment. Okay, I'll bring it back to the ADR for recommendations. Thank you. Mark, would you like to go first this time?
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, I have no comments at all. I think it's a great project. I think what I wanted to make one point, the additional square footage for the basement improved space, the gym, whatever, falls within the FAR of this particular property. So I think that's the simple reason why this makes a ton of sense, and I love the architecture, and I completely endorse it.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, should I go?
No, yeah, great. Go.
I agree. I also am in support of the project. I don't see any necessary changes. So, yeah, thanks.
I also agree. I think it's great as designed, well done. I would suggest removing the sheet metal exhaust pipe on top of the guest roof. I agree, this is intensifying a non-conforming building. The basement kind of exists, the square footage is being expanded there, and so I think if the project were over the FAR, we'd have to make a different kind of finding, or I would in my heart, kind of, and so anyway, I support the project wholeheartedly, but it doesn't mean that in other circumstances where a project was over the FAR, would we come to the same conclusion, I think.
I agree with my colleagues. It'll be a great project. Good luck. Also smart on the fire-resistant exterior. And just a side note, for your outdoor storage cabinetry, make sure it's really waterproof, because any wood panels will eventually you'll have to replace them. It'll be a hassle. But thank you, and good luck. Okay, great. So now we're on to 63 Laurel Grove. With the owner, first the town will make a small presentation, then the owners and their design team will come up.
ADR members, the applicant at 63 Laurel Grove is requesting approval of a design review, a hillside lot permit, and a variance. The project proposes to construct a new 770 square foot carport that includes widening the driveway and a green roof and an 8-foot retaining wall. The new carport will be located north of the residence and in the existing driveway. The project also includes converting the pool cabana basement into a gym and a home office by converting 713 square foot of unconditioned space into a floor area. A new deck is proposed outside the newly conditioned space. A variance is needed to exceed the allowable floor area by 1,483 square feet. Also to construct a new carport within the side yard setback and to construct a new 8-foot retaining wall. Staff requests that the ADR group discuss the merits of the project and provide a recommendation to town council.
Can you zoom in a little on this picture?
I can't zoom in on that picture. I can go to the plan.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah, you can go ahead and do the presentation now. Thanks.
Project 63 Laurel Grove, it's taking an existing house it's trying to expand the parking on the north side, as I said, and there's an existing pool cabana on the right side. Beneath the pool cabana itself, it was built 8 years ago, just kind of bare footings in there and gravel. So they're trying to reclaim the space to be used for a gym / office / rec room. Reason for variance, we'll start with the parking. Just trying to, it's at the end of a long, narrow road, so trying to add a little bit more parking to keep the congestion off the road itself. We try to set back so we're not across a water line easement there. And the variance there, because we're putting a cover over it, cantilever green roof. That's actually what put us over the FAR for that item. And then the same thing on the pool cabana itself. Because it's an unconditioned, unfinished basement, it did not count in the FAR, but now that we're changing it, we are adding to the FAR. Because we're on a hillside lot, we hit the max. We're actually over existing buildings over the FAR, and so that's why we're trying to convert those spaces into the new ones. If you go to the next slide, there we go. Right there. So on these two slides, you can see on the bottom one is the current condition, and on the above section, it's the proposed condition. No change. We are just opening up the facade to add the windows and the deck, and then also re-siding it, because the siding as it is not aesthetically pleasing. And then on the other side, actually, sorry, stay there. And then you can see also we're carving into the hillside a little bit to add the parking. We wouldn't need the variance for that guy if we didn't put the cover over it. We feel the cover both protects the cars, adds value to the house, and by putting the roof, it makes it look better.
Sorry, just to be clear, you would need a variance even without the cover just because the retaining wall isn't that correct, or am I incorrect in that?
So there's three variances for that one. One is it's over the setback on the hillside locks. It's a 45-foot setback over there. So it hangs over just a little bit. We could go back to the plan if we want to. We don't need to, sorry, for now. Actually, yeah. You see where the three cars are dashed in?
Yep.
That is the setback right there.
Okay.
That's for a hillside lot. And so they own the property all the way to the east, but the north side of the page, all the way down to the creek below. So you're only really able to use about 25% of the site for the building pad, but the steep hillside kind of, honestly, if they separated the properties, a lot of the problems would go away, but they're not going to do that. So that setback's the variance. The second one was the FAR, which I was talking about, how if we didn't put the cover, it wouldn't count as in the floor area counts. And then the retaining wall itself was also a variance because it's over 4 feet. So we had it 8 feet just so you could park a car beneath there.
Right, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, and actually, if you can go to the images, it helps a little bit as well. There you go. Just see we have it before and after. For this one, it's only visible to the property owner itself, and then one more lot up the road. So as they go up the private road, they're the only ones that really get to see it. So I feel it's pretty minimal, and the client finds it aesthetically pleasing. And on the next slide, you can see the improvements to the gym area. So. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Are there any ADR questions? Laura, do you have a question?
Yeah, just a question about the 2.2% hillside lot FAR and lot coverage instead of the 15% per zoning. Just wanted if you could explain that.
I don't think it's 2.2%. I'm not sure where the numbers
I
come
thought I read that in the package, but okay.
That's not correct. If it's a hillside lot, it's based on the slope of the lot and thank you, the lot size and the slope. And so this is a very steep lot because the way how it severely drops down. I don't know if you went to the site, but you go up the driveway and there's a big drop to the right of the driveway. So that bumps the slope of the lot, I think, to 55%. So they're, severely penalized by that percentage in terms of allowable floor area, or maybe they're not penalized. This is just what the code allows.
So what is the percentage that's allowed on this lot because of it?
It is 2.2%. Normally, if it's the coverage is 15%, which we're way under. It's the floor area ratio that is the 2.2%.
Right. No, the floor area is based on the slope and the size of the lot, and is that in your staff report? Okay, I can get that. It's not 2.2, or maybe it is. Oh, you have the things here.
Approximately how many, let's see.
the floor area is not based on a percentage, it's based on a formula. So it's a number, it's a square footage, not a, so it might end up being 2.2%, but we don't calculate it that way. We calculate it based on the formula, not a
Okay.
percentage. So the total square feet allowed,
It's 3355, and they're
Yes.
over it by 2,200 at the moment.
right, their existing is 6288, their proposed is 7058.
Mhm.
When we, sorry, it's been a while. When the town approved the project, the current house, what was was it larger than the house that had been there before, or were you taking existing square footage? Was the existing square footage of the previous house 55, and so you got 55 again? I forget, it's been a while.
Sorry, this is Josh, the property owner.
Hi.
Hi, Josh.
So, yeah, he doesn't have that history, and I don't have too much of that history. And thank you for what you do for the town. My understanding is there was a lot of difficulty in building this house. We bought it in 2018. We didn't move in for 3 years, but some of the things that had to be resolved were some fines on the house and other things. And I think there was one neighbor that complained severely about the property at the time it was being built, who was the below neighbor. I don't think anyone else can see us, really, in any direction. And pretty much every neighbor supports this project. The one neighbor raised concerns about cutting down trees, and we alleviated that concern. But the one thing that he's taught me is that, you know, we own 6 acres, but there's like only an acre and a half that's even part of what we use. And so because of the zoning, that what you see on that slope is like almost 5 acres of what I would describe as useless land that, you know, if the town wanted to come take over, put sheep up there, cut all the trees down, I'd be happy for that. I don't know what to do with it, you know. Someone who was brilliant and had all the resources might build a vineyard there, which would be a natural fire break, and I'd support. But you know, we don't really have a use for it, and apparently it did limit the way that the house was built originally. I don't know enough of the details about how it was built, but, and maybe that's why he never built the space out, but the reason I want to build this project is because it looks like it's the perfect place for a gym and a room where, when my kids become teenagers and can't stand their mom and dad, which they're very close to, you know, have a place where they can go. And I think it will obviously enhance the value, but it's literally, no one can see it or do anything. I think he's just drawn a beautiful design. But I don't know all the history of that, and if it's important to you, I can go back. I remember I looked at it when I bought it, but it was more than 5 years ago. And
It's okay, I was just curious. It doesn't
no, I
really
appreciate
matter,
the
I was just
question.
I was just
appreciate the
curious.
question.
Okay. Are there any other questions from ADR members? Okay. Sorry, did I ask? Does anyone in the audience here or at home have a comment or question? Okay, I'll bring it back to the ADR for recommendations. Who would like to go first? And I think it would be helpful, as people are making comments, to separate the two aspects of the project, because you've got the carport with the retaining wall and the gym, and they're two very different things. So I think it would be helpful going forward for council or anyone else to have opinions on both of those aspects of the project. Laura, you live up in the hills. Would you like to comment first?
Sure. So I will start with the carport area. I like the modern design of it. I like the green roof on top. I think that, I don't know if it's visible from the neighbor above, but I think that green roof kind of minimizes impact to others. So I think that's great. And in terms of the aesthetic design of the space below the pool, I see the desire to utilize that space and to upgrade the materials of that rather tall wall that's existing there right now. I like the cabana and the like functional kitchen island, outdoor kitchen barbecue space. I think for me, I just am not sure exactly how it works with the rules on the FAR. I mean, it seems like a 6-acre lot could certainly, it could make sense to have this space here. But I guess I'm just a little uncertain of how that should be recommended. So,
If I could just clarify one thing.
Yes.
On the plans that I just looked at, it's 3.43 acres,
oh, okay.
6 acres. I mean, I don't know if
No,
that really
thank you.
makes a
No.
difference, but, you
No,
know,
but-
when we're talking that size of a lot, but.
Mhm.
Thank you. That is pretty far off on your own lot. let me just say, a 3-acre mistake in Ross is a pretty big mistake. It's fine. Thank you. And Laura, what do you think about the retaining wall at the carport?
Mm-hmm. What, it's 8 feet tall? Is it 8? Oh, is it 8 feet tall?
Tallest part is 8 feet tall. I
Mhm.
think it's slightly
Yeah,
increased.
when I was looking at that rendering, I was thinking, oh, it'd be nice to have like creeping fig go up it. But I don't think that really grows without light. So I'm not sure if there's any sort of planting that could be encouraged to kind of remove the jarring effect of, you know, such a tall concrete wall. But no, I mean, I think I'm generally supportive of that aspect.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd be happy to go. Can we, let's first focus on the carport. Can we look at the plan of that? What struck me when I was out of the site, the rendering makes it look as if the overhang is set further back from the road. So I was surprised by the presence of that tape line when I got out there. I felt like it was awfully close to the road. The overhang specifically, I don't have as much problem with the retaining wall. I do actually appreciate Laura's comment about potentially, you know, putting some creeping fig or something in front of that. I think that would actually be quite nice. But I think the presence of that overhang and the mass that it really does create is a little too close to the road. I would probably be in support of a 2-car overhang where that overhang pulls back towards the, in this particular drawing on the bottom side, I think that's the west. So, yeah, I think the rendering, again, makes it look, you know, in proportion to the space, a setback from that road a decent amount, but in reality, when I got out there, I felt like that was too close to the road, specifically the overhang. And I think, you know, you're gonna see that concrete wall as you drive up that road. So doing something to mitigate that a little bit. Right now, I see the palette matches that of the current project, right? The sort of exposed board form concrete. You know, I would do something to soften that a little bit. So those are the comments on the carport. I think a 2-car overhang would be more appropriate. You could still park a 3rd car, but it might not be completely covered by the overhang. In relationship to the gym and the build out of the underside of that existing space. So I'll go on a little bit of a small rant here. I think a lot of our development here in Ross is, you know, can at times set themselves up for future expansion above and beyond an FAR. So regardless of how the building got to be as big as it is, it's pretty massive for what appears to be the site. I recognize there's more site across the street or across the roadway, but what appears as you drive up to this is the site is, you know, above the road. I cannot see a finding for increasing the FAR beyond what it already is over the lot requirements in a location that's so close to that road. I just can't see the finding for it. I I think it's right there. I think on top of that, that deck further encroaches into the sort of road space and the setback beyond what I think is reasonable for the development on that particular site. So I just don't see supporting that particular piece of this project.
Thank you. I'll go. And regarding the two aspects, I agree with Mark on the carport, that I think it looks nice, but I think it should be further back and be a two-car carport. And I would have the wall not start, it's such a harsh angle, but slope up as the wall goes up. I think that can be done, where it could be, start at maybe 4 and then go up to whatever height it needs to go up to. Might be nicer, and also the softer earth tone materials. As far as the lower gym development, I agree. First of all, I think it looks really nice. I agree that it's a great use of the space. I agree with Mark that the deck is sort of an extra encroachment that doesn't really need to be there. In regards to the findings for a variance to convert that, I don't know how the town does that, because if all of a sudden our reason for converting something as well, no one else can see this, so therefore we should go over the FAR, and maybe that should be the way the town does things, but it's not at the moment. And if that is the case, I think a lot of people have homes where there are parts of their yard that no neighbor can see, and then everybody would be building the extra 1,000 to 6,000 square feet where neighbors can't see things, and maybe that should be how the town is. I just think it'll be hard for the town council to find a reason to allow that just because nobody can see it.
If I could just clarify, variance findings are state mandated findings, and one of those findings is a hardship on the lot. And in this case, it's a steeply sloping lot. So not that I'm arguing for the variance, but that's what the town council would be evaluating. Does the shape of this lot, size of this lot, steepness of the lot prevent them from developing it to its fullest potential, or similarly to their neighbors?
Yeah. But and I guess I would
Right.
think if there's an acre to an acre and a half of developable land up top on this side of the road, and there's already 5,500 feet there, maybe you could say that's a hardship, but it seems like that would be hard to argue when if there was 2,000 square feet there, I would, and this house was good, and someone wanted to build a 5,500 square foot house, which they did, I could see supporting that, which I think I actually did. but then adding the extra just because no one can see it, while I don't think it would hurt anybody ever, I think it might be hard for the town council to make a finding on that.
On the carport, I agree with Mark, but I'm wondering, could it be shifted a little bit, down on the page here so that you could still achieve 3-car? Do you think that, could it shift enough to minimize the apparent bulk from the roadway so that it felt appropriate, or is it hard for you to make a judgment on that?
If you're saying just scoot the whole thing down 1 car width, then it would be fine. And if you didn't have those 3 cars parked there, you could obviously come in and your first car could be where that writing is, and the second and third car could be where the first and second car are now. And if you just shifted the whole thing 1 car down, that would be absolutely fine. I don't care how many cars are there. I was just agreeing with Mark as far as the farther from the road.
I agree. I just want to leave it that option, maybe. If we think that it would be suitably or equally acceptable to shift it down a bit or to decrease its size, maybe we can make that recommendation,
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, I would be as well. It wasn't the number of cars, it was more its proximity to the road.
Yep. I just want to be clear so we can give them some power of choice.
Thanks.
I support the carport almost as designed, with a slight agreement about it projecting too far, kind of from a bulk standpoint, and also with the sharp or kind of quality of the retaining wall as it's apparent near the road. I think it's a really clever design and it's really cool looking, but I have a hard time when in our guidelines it says like we shouldn't mess with natural topography too much, and here this is like the particular design is to mess with the topography. Like, that's what makes it kind of cool. So I'm at a little bit of tension there. But I think you're either it's some planting on that part of the wall, and I think sloping is a great idea. I know it erodes the design concept just a little bit, doesn't make it as kind of fresh right there at the corner, but I think it's a way to soften the appearance of that retaining wall. And so my two comments would be soften that with an angle and some planting, and then to bring it back, you know, the equivalent of to the center of that first car or something equivalent kind of to that. On the gym below, I have a hard time with this. I think that it doesn't hurt anybody because the bulk is already there. The deck does. I think the deck is projecting farther and it's exacerbating this current nonconformity. I know that using it as a gym exacerbates the nonconformity by working out inside a structure that is currently just a crawl space right now. But I don't know, it doesn't hurt anybody, so I can support it, but I don't know how to get into it because that's, you know, you go down some stairs and use the deck to wrap around and go in the doors. So maybe I would say that I can support it if two things could happen. If the deck could be made only 4 feet wide, 4.5 feet, something like that, 4.5 feet, to track around so that you can get into the building, then was a kind of a Juliet situation, and then there was some screening. It looks very, soil looks poor. I don't know how you're going to plant good screening there, but it had some kind of pretty bushes that covered the railing, and the deck did not project more than necessary to get into the building on that bottom side. I like it. I think it doesn't hurt anybody. But I think, Mark, your point is, you know, what's to stop people from doing kind of big deck projections, promising they won't put FAR, and then they come back the next month and put some FAR in it. I don't know, dude. I can't solve your problem, but I like it. You know.
If I could, Stephen, I mean, I think that is the question. We have a lot of sloping lots here in the town, right? With a lot of understory, unexcavated crawl spaces. And, you know, the codes are there for a reason, right? The FAR is there for a reason, to reduce the bulk and mass, et cetera, et cetera. So I can't see how we could, you know, support a move like that when it wouldn't, you know, the next one that comes up and the next one, and the ripple effect of filling in all of those understories seems
I agree with you, but I think
outrageous.
I agree with you, but I think the harm was done when this was originally improved. Like the bulk of that big retaining wall is the problem.
Yeah.
And to me, putting the windows in there doesn't exacerbates it only just a little bit. I feel like it's there. We should use it.
I understand that logic. I fall
Don't
on the
appreciate
opposite side of it to say, boy, I would always screen an underside so that the bulk is always there, so then we could build up underneath it. Fair enough.
Okay, Rebecca, do you have enough from us?
I'm just not clear on Laura's take on the gym.
Oh.
I know
Laura.
you were going to maybe circle back, listen to the other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough because you don't want to set a bad precedent, but on the other hand, I kind of agree with Stephen that it's not making anything worse. But, you know, agree with the comment of not having the deck projecting as much. I mean, I don't know if the deck is in the setback or not, but if it's in the setback, to pull the deck in some. Yep.
Stephen was saying it's not a buildable area, the deck.
Okay, yeah, so then pull the deck in, like what he suggested, 4 feet or something.
I'll ask my colleagues, what is the hardship here exactly? That it's on a sloping lot? I want to push this a little bit because the next one that comes down the road, I'm going to say the same thing, right? What's the hardship? That it's on a sloping lot. That's all I can see, but we have a lot of sloping lots. To me, that's not a hardship. That's a reality of the lot.
I understand, Mark. I think that if the project were all new, I would say that that's too much bulk, or it's unnecessary bulk, it's out of the setbacks, and it's above the FAR. And the hillside ordinance prescribes how much square footage is appropriate to build on hillside lots. And that, I think it's weird to have a hillside ordinance and then simultaneously say the hillside ordinance sucks, so I want to build more FAR. Right? I agree with you. My thought about this is just that it exists already, and that we should be vigilant about people proposing big bulky things that, on hillsides. But this is, to me, not a new big bulky thing on a hillside.
Okay, but so going forward, then, any house that's like built on a slope that has a half level, you'll be against?
Oh, shit, I don't know.
Okay. 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 So you have two people in favor of the gym with a smaller deck and two people who don't understand why there'd be findings for it, even though they think it might not hurt anybody to work out in that space that already exists.
Right, yeah, with added landscape. Yes, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll now move on to the next item. Are there any new agenda items for the ADR?
I don't have any.
Okay. Well, then I motion that we adjourn the meeting. All right. Thank you. Nice to see you in person.